You're listening to The Social Workers on WCDB Albany.
Good morning. You're listening to the Social Workers Radio Talk Show on WCDB FM, University at Albany, the School of Social Welfare. I'm Catherine Zox, your social worker with a microphone, and I'm here with Alyssa Lotmore. She's also a social worker with a microphone. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm very excited for our show today and our guest.
Yeah, it's great. Well, Alyssa's been co-hosting the show with me this year. This is our 4th year, School of Social Welfare, the Social Workers Radio Talk Show. She graduated. I ask you the same question every week. When did you graduate? What year?
BSW was 07, MSW 08.
Okay, great. And I think you have to be a graduate to be able to be a co-host on the show. So we're going to be talking, actually, we have a guest this morning, but I also wanted to introduce our board op, who's probably the most important person on this show, Gal Mosby.
Yes, it is. Gal Mosby.
Gal, thanks so much for doing this show.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. I heard you guys needed help, so I came through in the clutch.
You did come through. Not only did you come through, I have to say, Gal, because we can do a show, we can talk, right, Alyssa? But we can't do the board. I mean, we could, I suppose, if we took the training.
Right.
But so you are really key, and you came on time. You know exactly what you were doing. That's what they told me. And
No problem.
you put in our intro and did the PSA. And I mean, you're a professional, and we might not let you go, and you might have to come
Okay.
back.
I've been doing my show for 2 years now,
You have?
so yeah, I'm a little acquainted with the board.
So what's your show?
I do an underground hip hop show every Sunday night,
What time?
midnight to 2 a.m.
Well, I'm up midnight to 2 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, at least from midnight to 1 o'clock. I don't know about you, Alyssa. Are you?
Not really.
No. Yeah.
But they do have replays, I think, so I
Yes.
I
always put up my show after the fact. So
Yeah, so do we. So we have my marketing assistant for my other show. Actually, she downloads the show, so we have it available. And we put it up on YouTube. Last year, we
Right.
put up several on YouTube. But we have one guest this morning. He's calling in about 9:15. I don't know what time it is now, but it's Bill Corbett. And he's local. He's here in Albany. He's the president of Sponsor a Scholar, which is an interesting not-for-profit program that has been, I'm not sure how long it's been in existence, but it sounds like a terrific program. I don't want to say too much about it, but it is what it sounds like. You sponsor a scholar. You take a kid in high school, perhaps who is doing okay, has financial problems, but needs monies and mentoring and sponsoring in order to help that student get to college and through college. So enough said, and we'll talk to Bill later on. But Alyssa, you have some announcements from the School of Social Welfare. Let's hear what they are.
Yes, well, about our guest today, he's also involved in the Charles and Charlotte Buchanan Endowment Scholarship for the Capital Region Sponsor a Scholar. So any student who goes through the Sponsor a Scholar program is eligible for another scholarship through the School of Social Welfare, which is a really great opportunity. And on Wednesday, October 23rd, from 12 to noon, the School of Social Welfare will be hosting a scholarship awardees luncheon for them and their donors, which is a really great event where student recipients of these scholarships and their donors can come together, and it's open to other members just to sort of see the students that we're producing who are recipients of these wonderful awards.
And I have been to that luncheon, I don't know, for many, many years, and that's the first time that I saw you because you were the superstar. Because you gave a speech.
I did.
Right?
I did. As a recipient, I gave a speech.
Yeah, and what do you remember? I'm putting you on the spot now. But it was you and another young woman. 2 of you gave speeches,
Yeah.
I think, right?
It was just, I was very involved in scholarships. I was a recipient for an athletic scholarship at the university for both undergrad and graduate school. And then I also had won one of the social work scholarships for community service. So I was very big on the promotion of scholarships. So they had asked me to speak for that.
So you're the perfect person. So what did it do for you? Or, I mean, can you envision, like, if you hadn't had those scholarships available, what would have happened, or where you would, what direction you would have taken?
I would still have went to the University of Albany. It was sort of last minute I found out about both scholarships that I had received. So I was planning on, working my way through college to try to raise the money that I needed for it. But I was thankful that I had the athletic scholarship as an undergraduate, and then as a graduate student, I received the NCAA postgraduate scholarship for my work in community service, my athletics, and my academics, which is a plus because it paid for grad school. But scholarships are so important to students because without that, you're always constantly worried about where the money is coming from, if you can afford it, and especially with the lower students who have limited resources and incomes. That's why the Sponsor a Scholar program is so great, because it can provide opportunities for these students who might not have been able to attend otherwise.
Yeah, and it's probably more critical now. I mean, considering what's happening in the economy, and there are a lot of students out there who should be in college and have access to these scholarships. So, I mean, that's really important. You, of course, as you're describing yourself, I mean, Alyssa, you are kind of like a Renaissance woman because you're an athlete as well. You got intellectual as well as athletic stuff, and sometimes they poo-poo the athletic stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they, but it's really important. Do we have our guest? So our guest is right here, right on time. A little bit early, actually. Well, we can start. Why don't we, do we want to go to a break and then come back, or do we just want to go to a break? All right, so we'll go to a break, and then we're going to come back with our guest, Bill Corbett.
Yes.
I've been a registered nurse for over 10 years, but I never imagined I'd be taking it to this level. I'm a flight nurse in the Air Force Reserve. Whether we're transporting injured soldiers or evacuating a civilian in need of critical care, we have to be ready. It's a part-time job, but a full-time experience.
And one of many exciting careers in the Air Force Reserve. Call 800-257-1212 or visit us online at afreserve.com. Air Force Reserve, above and beyond.
I remember he'd get home from work and come down the street to shoot hoops with us. He wasn't a coach or anything, he was just a guy who took the time.
Unfortunately, times have changed. Today, there are more children in need of adult role models than ever before. So at Always Kids, we're dedicated to improving the way children grow up in this country. You can help. Get involved in a child's life.
Let's play!
Guess now it's my turn. Okay, here's the shot. Get the board, get the rebound.
Always Kids, helping you make a difference.
We're back. I'm Catherine Sachs, your social worker with the microphone, and you are listening to the Social Workers Radio Talk Show with Alyssa Lotmore and Gal Mosby on the board, WCDB FM at the University of Albany in the School, as I said, School of Social Welfare. But as we mentioned earlier, and we've been talking about scholarships, we have our guest this morning is here, Bill Corbett, who is president of Sponsor a Scholar, which is here, a not-for-profit organization here in the Albany area. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you on this morning, Bill.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. What a program. We've been talking about scholarships, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, who is a graduate of the School of Social Welfare, and she was the recipient of many scholarships, and talking, before you got on the line about how important it was to her. But, okay, Sponsor a Scholarship. Tell us. You're the president. First question is, why don't you tell us exactly what it is? And is it local, regional, national, or, tell us about the program.
Well, the program originated in Philadelphia. The model started in 1986, and we replicated it in 1996 here in the Capital Region. Led by Bill Barnett and Charlie Buchanan, we serve Albany, Troy, and Schenectady public high schools. We take in 10 students each year as sophomores in high school, and we provide mentoring, tutoring, weekly homework sessions, AP courses, AP course fees, graphing calculators, and that kind of support to the students on the high school side so that they're prepared for the rigor when they get into college. Once they get into college, we give them $750 for every successful semester they complete.
All right, so tell us, who would be a mentor, who would be a tutor, who would be a sponsor? Because those are different people, right? Not
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The mentor is a person who has time and is willing to help a young person kind of navigate the different messages that they get from their families, the schools, their peers about, what direction they should take once they graduate from high school. So the family has a vested interest in one direction, the school has a vested interest in the other, and a peer has a vested interest in maybe a third. The mentor is an adult who usually has been through college and the rigors of getting into college and graduating and all the the stuff that goes with that, and is able to help the student kind of sort through all that different information they're getting so that they can make the best decision for themselves.
So the mentor is a support system, an individual kind of support system for the student, which obviously you need, not just the money or the funding. You need that extra emotional support. And as you say, people who have gone through college and been through the process themselves.
Right, because many of our students are first-generation college. So, and as difficult as the college scene is, I mean, it changes on a regular basis. So you need somebody who can kind of help them stay grounded as they make and face these very difficult challenges as they're getting out of high school.
Bill, are the mentors younger or older? Do you think they tend to be maybe older people, baby boomers who want to do something and give back?
Yeah, I think if you think about the people who have time available to them, we have a lot of seniors, citizens who are interested in doing this kind of thing, because their families have moved out, and they have some free time and they may be retired. We get a lot of people who are just out of college who haven't started their families yet. A lot of the folks who are, like when I was back with 2 kids still in the house with my wife, that was a tough time to be mentoring, and so that would not be probably one of the biggest pools of people that we get. But we have a lot of seniors, citizens, who help us on a regular basis drive this organization. I mean, the 2 guys, when they started this organization, were late in their 70s. And so, our board and donors are, a senior cut of our society. But at this point, we've had a lot of success. And so, the path they put us on was a good one.
So you're bringing, that's a great way of bringing the seniors together with the young people. And I'm sure that there's probably a lot of mentoring that goes on both ways, because it keeps the older people connected to what's happening with the youth as well.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the selling points is to tell the mentor that they're going to really get more out of this than they put into it.
Yeah.
The students are just phenomenal kids, and they're able to go to colleges and do some great things that they otherwise may not have been able to do without our support.
How do you pick out the kids? How do you find the kids? Are the schools involved? Do they come to? Yeah, well, tell us about the process.
Yeah, the schools are a big help. They provide a space for our homework session once a week. All the services internally, the tutors typically are, teachers that we pay a couple extra bucks to help us out. But the big ones that run this program are the guidance counselors, who are full-time workers for the school districts, who we pay on a part-time basis like you would a coach. So, the coach for the basketball team might also be the social studies teacher. We're taking a guidance counselor and paying a couple of extra bucks to run our program on a weekly basis. They choose students. All of our students are federal free reduced lunch list. They're coming in with about a B.C. average at the time of entry point, from freshman to sophomore year. Many of them improved dramatically over the 3 years they're with us. And they're also demonstrating leadership by the time that we have, they've gotten onto our radar. So in school districts as big as, Albany, Troy, and Schenectady, to be demonstrating leadership as a freshman is a pretty big thing.
Yeah, that is a big thing, because, freshman year that's tough to be able to be a leader. You're just usually struggling, and especially with these kids in these family situations where
Absolutely.
So how do you measure success? How do you've been doing this for quite a while
Right.
now. Do you actually have specific objective measurements?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In this day and age, and I'm sure you're talking to a lot of the folks who listen to you, evaluation and, critically looking at your own program is what has to happen on a daily basis. So we know that 95% of our students graduate from high school, compared with 50% for the 3 school districts that we serve, and 65% eventually wind up with a college degree. Now, that's 8 times the national average. The College Board says that if you take a federal free reduced lunch student randomly picked from across the United States, that 8% of the time they'll eventually get a college degree. 65% of our kids eventually graduate either from a community college or a 4-year school, and many of them go on to graduate school.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to ask you, what is the secret? Because there are other programs, they give out scholarships, but they don't necessarily have that kind of a success rate. Is it
Right.
because of how you organize it, the people you get in there? I don't want to answer the question.
Right. It's the model, and I think there are 2 things. The kids come in because of the $750 that we give them and promise them for every successful semester of college they complete. But the support they get from the tutors, the mentors, and the academic coordinators, who are those guidance counselors I talked about before, is really the critical piece, because by the time they get into college, they've really kind of learned how to manage a large organization where they're in an academic setting and excel, and that not necessarily everything's working for them. So in a large public school where not everybody's looking out for every single kid, they get into a college and they're ready for the rigors of the academics, and the college is ready, like UAlbany or Siena or St. Rose, to wrap some support around them and be cheerleaders for them. These kids just take off. And so a lot of it is what happens on the high school side with the mentors, the tutors, and the academic coordinators. And the $750 a semester is really helpful to keep them from working themselves out of school. So the money's paid directly to them, so that where another student might work 40 hours at CVS and try to also do an undergraduate program, at a place like UAlbany, that's almost impossible. I mean, the academic rigor is too hard to be working 40 hours at CVS as well. So we give them the $750 and tell them, look, try to keep this money for traveling back and forth to school, gifts for your families at the holiday, going out for pizza on a Friday night with your friends, going to see a movie once in a while, so that they don't work so hard on a part-time job that they wind up flunking out of school.
Yeah,
the goal is to get the college degree.
Yeah, I like that model. And these kids then, obviously, by the time they get there, they've taken on responsibility. I mean, they've, as you say, the $750. What would you say would be some of the biggest obstacles? I mean, we've talked about all the pluses, and I know there are a lot more, and we'll talk about them to the program, but what about some of the obstacles? Because, people listen, they say, okay, I mean, it sounds great, it sounds wonderful, but there have to be some really major kinds of issues that you have to overcome, that you have to deal with the kids, with the faculty, with the mentoring, with the tutors, all of all of those involved.
Right. And a lot of them are taken care of. We have a college scholar retention coordinator who's a great young guy who works for Guilderland as a teacher full-time. And he works part-time for us, and all he does is distribute those $750 checks 2 times a year. Now, we have 150 kids in college, so that's a big undertaking. But what he does is he sits down with each one of them for about 10 or 15 minutes, and he kind of gives them a little counseling, what your folks would be doing as social workers. And when he sends them back with not an answer, but with the area on the college campus that's going to solve the problem. So if the kids are talking about, my roommate's crazy, we send them back to the RA and say, look, talk to the residential director about maybe considering a room change. Or if the financial aid is a problem, go to the financial aid office and explain what your situation is and ask if there's any way that they can give you some more help. You're in a big organization. Not everyone pops to the top. You may have to do a little bit more advocating for yourself. And what we try to do is teach them where on campus they'll get the support that they're going to, benefit from. And these guys, because of participating, I think, in a lot of ways with Sponsor a Scholar, they've really learned how to talk to administrators, from the tutors at the high school program and the academic coordinators, and a lot of the principals and the superintendents see this program as so successful that a lot of times they'll tap into it to get speakers to come and say, hey, look what's happening in my school. I'm getting plastered in the paper because of our grades and our success rate, but look at one of these programs and look at what this kid's doing. And it's a recipe for success.
Yeah, and one of the things as you're talking, it reminds me of what you really are doing is helping these kids navigate the system, which middle-class kids and upper-middle-class kids, they have their parents who have been to college who help them do that.
Right.
And it isn't just a matter of monies. They have to know how to navigate that system.
Exactly.
And you do that. You follow through. I think I had read somewhere, and maybe you just mentioned it, I'm not sure, you continue with them 4 years, 6 years at graduate school? Or
Well, at graduate school, the money's run out. When a sponsor gives us $10,000 to support a student coming in, so that's the only way I can bring a student in is if I get a sponsorship for $10,000. The first $4,000 we put toward all the high school side of the program, so the tutoring, the college visits, the AP courses, the graphing calculators, and all that jazz. $6,000 of the money is held in trust until the student graduates from high school, and that's the money they get $750 for every successful semester they complete. Now, when they finish a 4-year program, the $6,000 is gone. However, through social media and through the network that we've developed and through the relationships that we have with the kids, when they go on to graduate school, they still feel comfortable calling us up and saying, hey, here's what's happened, this is what I need, can you help me out? And we can not necessarily give them money, but we can certainly try to help them with internships, or we can help direct them to people who might be interested in hiring them. This January, we're going to have 150 kids who are in college come together, get their check, feed all their friends and family that they want to bring. We'll have UAlbany's graduate school, Sienna's graduate school, St. Rose's graduate school, a bunch of businesses, so that when the kids come in, they'll get a chance on their break to talk about some opportunities at the graduate level after they finish with their, bachelor's work, and also companies that might be interested in hiring them either for internships during the summer or later on for a career. So we try to provide, support, mentoring, counseling, money at college, networking later on in the professional fields, and then identifying some people who have really made it professionally in this area. Actually, there's a very successful young guy of ours down at SUNY Research who's an accountant. And so we have lots of people that we can point to say, look, if you stay on this path, good things can happen. And there are people out there now working in the community who, if they find out that you're with Sponsor Scholar, may be able to give you a hand up.
Yeah, I think that's important, as you say. I mean, you have to, in the social work vernacular, put a face on it, who's actually done it. And that really is important, I think, in the community. So you really act as a family. You are a family. I'm losing you.
Yep. Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
I don't know what's happening on the board, but I can't. Can you hear me now?
I can.
I can't hear him. Now. Bill?
Yep. I'm still here.
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Then it's my headphones, I guess. All right. I think something's wrong with my headphones.
Okay.
Hold
I'll
on a
keep
minute. Let
talking
me
and
just get
answering
another
your
set.
questions.
Bill?
Yep.
Yeah, hi. We're always having some kind of technical difficulty here. We've got a half a dozen headphones, fortunately. But anyway, what I was saying, I don't know if you heard me, but I think you act as a family.
Yeah.
You are, and you continue, even if it's not in a formal way, all of these students are still connected to you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, which I think is obviously a great program. I want to get talk about you personally, because how did you get into this? I mean, you said, when you were raising your two little boys, or I don't know if they're little boys, your two kids, you were raising your own family,
right.
And you weren't necessarily in a position to do something like this. So
right.
how'd you get into it? What's your background?
Well, I worked for 26 years in residential care with juvenile delinquents. So I worked 13 years at LaSalle School Incorporated and 13 years at Berkshire Farm Center and Services for Youth. The last 13 being out at Berkshire, the ride just really started to wear on me, and so I decided I'd look for something a little bit closer to home. I live in Voorheesville. And I had managed a fairly large budget in the cottage I was running out there. It was an intense alcohol and substance abuse unit, so we billed for Medicare as well as residential care and education. So the money was pretty substantial. So what I did was I looked at small nonprofits with an executive director title that I thought would fit, that I wouldn't steer financially into the gutter right off the bat, and this fit all the criteria. And once I came in, I just it was a different enough model, and the people were just tremendously kind and nice to me that and helped me get started. And it was really at the beginning of its journey. So the lead class at the time were only sophomores in college, and now we have 150 college graduates, 150 kids in college. So it was at a point where there was a lot of development still going on, and a lot of people of the founding board still had their hands very clearly in the mix. Since then, the founder, Bill Barnett, has passed away, and his partner, Charlie Buchanan, who helped start this program, still is our chair emeritus. And so that piece of it carries on. But a lot has been, kind of handed down now to the program and the staff, that, the continuing and even with what UAlbany would be wrestling with is trying to find a way for the alumni to become active in giving so that there's a sustainable piece to this. That's where we're at right now, going out to the kids who are working full-time and saying, hey, you guys got help from this program. It's time for you to start helping support it so that 10 years from now we're still in business and helping kids get, into college.
Yeah, so you want to get them enthusiastic. That was my next question, fundraising, because that's key. Because you have a Facebook page.
We do.
Yeah. And there was, I think you had what was your recent fundraiser?
Well, we're doing a 10-10-10, which is October 10th. For 10 minutes, we're going to walk at CDPHP. And we're going to virally run this so that a lot of the kids who are going to school on college campuses across New York will also walk at the same time. and ask clubs and friends and stuff like that to join them. And the entry point is $10, so everybody who walks is going to send $10 in a donation to sponsor a scholar, and hopefully this catches on. It's kind of a low enough threshold for college students and college graduates that they can get involved and start to give, and then start to learn to kind of give back in this kind of situation.
Yeah, so that it takes on a life of its own in a good way.
Absolutely.
As a social worker, and Alyssa and I are both social workers, I'm always interested not only in the individual but in the family.
Right.
So what's the impact on the family? Let's say you have a family. Neither of the parents or parent has been to college.
Mm-hmm.
The student that is in your program, that may be one, but then there are siblings, I assume, in many of the families. How does that impact on the family, on the siblings, on the parents or the guardian, whoever? Yeah.
It's huge. One, the fact that one's child in the family is successful sets a real tone and measure for all the rest of the youngsters who are, coming up behind them. So they see my older sister go to college, and they know they're going to go to college. The students, as they graduate, also give back to their families, and so they're willing to take the money that they start to earn once they get out on their own and help the family move forward. The coolest thing that's happened recently is we've joined in a collaboration with Habitat for Humanity. And so what's going to happen is in a development in Sheridan Hollow, which Carl Toohey and the Toohey Foundation has been very supportive, and Mike Jacobson came up with a great idea and put this piece together with Vista from Siena. 9 families that go into 9 of the new Habitat homes in Sheridan Hollow will also have a child in the family that comes into Capital Region Sponsor Scholar. So the family gets the new Habitat home, and a child in the family gets Sponsor Scholar support so that they get through and get a college degree. So this is really looked at as a model that's going to ramp up the whole trajectory of the family, where we in the years past have said to the family, look, we're going to help your child move ahead so that the next generation is in a better situation than you guys are in. Now we're able to, through this model, help the whole family at once, get them stabilized in safe housing, and then move the next generation to a college degree level and income, and hopefully, the bridge out of poverty.
Well, isn't this a model that we need to take to Washington, or that you need to take to Washington?
Well, actually, my good friend Mike Jacobson down at Habitat, he and I have talked about making this, kind of pounding on the desks at all the folks at Habitat and saying, look, if you are, which I'm sure you are, in the vicinity of a high school support program, try to find a way to collaborate. Now, this was really put together by way smarter people than I am. So, Mike, along with this young Vista Beatrice Jean, who was working with us for a year, came up with this whole idea, and I just kind of followed along and did what I was told. But the replication and the replicatability of this is clear. The fact that you would partner and have that kind of impact on a family is very appetizing to lots of donors, and they're willing to. I've had donors tell me, I'll do a sponsorship for $10,000 with you, but what I really want to do is a house, because the house and the sponsorship is a $35,000 commitment. They'll give me the $10,000, but they want to do a house. They want to find a way to bring their friends together, to go to their organization, to go to a foundation and say, this is even a better model than helping this young student. This helps the family, puts them in safe housing, in a safe community, and the outcomes are just phenomenal.
That's quite a story. Yeah, it really is, that combination. It's very, far thinking, but it's also very, very clever. That's great. I've been asking all the questions, Bill, but Alyssa Lotmore, my co-host, who has just started, she just graduated from School of Social Welfare just a few years ago.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were on the air when we were talking, but she's received a lot of scholarships and has, obviously stood her in good stead. But you wanted to comment, Alyssa, on some of the things Bill's been saying.
I mean, as a person who's I've worked in the school setting for 4 years after I had graduated, and just your program sounds phenomenal. And after hearing a lot of the stories that my students and their families would tell me about how they didn't know if college was going to be an option because of the financial resources, and no one in their family had gone to college, and they didn't know even the network and where to go and where to turn to. Mm-hmm. The fact that your program exists is absolutely phenomenal, and I thank you for being a part in such a great thing, because I know it impacts so many families. families for the positive. And thank you.
It's a good reason to get up in the morning.
It's really a great program, and so many students have a chance at something that they never thought they had.
That's right.
And like I said, I commend you for helping to create such a thing.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I love the family idea.
Yeah.
And the house. That's tangible. People see that.
Sure.
You provided a home for this family.
That's right.
So that they can operate in a positive system.
Yep.
Yeah. I interrupted you. You were going to say something.
Me or
you?
Your student?
Bill.
It's interesting that one of the first conversations I had to have with a family where we weren't going to accept the student was that they only wanted the student to graduate from high school. They said, well, we've seen your 95% success rate at high school, and that's all we want. We want our daughter to graduate and then come back home and work for us. And I said, to be honest with you, in this day and age, and this was an immigrant family, I said, in this community, that's not going to make it. She's not going to be successful if she's only got a high school degree. So you have to get on board with us to get her into college, or else I really can't accept it, because the goals of the program are to graduate kids from college, not from high school. And so they kind of went back and huddled and talked a little bit and said, okay, we believe that is important and we'll support you. And then the young woman went on and did some great things, went to Fordham, worked for the Yankees, in New York City right now working in marketing. So
that's a lot. That's a big step from just wanting to graduate from high school, New York City, the Yankees. Yeah. And it reminded me of something, what you just said, like cultural. What are some of the cultural differences? Because you do have to deal, I would assume, with the cultural attitudes towards education and different groups. You mentioned immigrants or people who have here for generations. And,
language, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That really falls more on the schools and the academic coordinator than me and the program people that we have out here in the office. The best I can say is that these three guys who work for us in the three schools, Marty Anderson in Albany, Charlie Riccio in Troy, and Earl Barkham in Schenectady, are tremendous guidance counselors. And the sensitivity they have to the issues that the kids bring make them a non-issue. So if there's, ethnic issues, they find a way to make sure everything's taken care of. Language issues, they work the things out. They have the kids working with each other. There's, communities of kids within even Sponsor a Scholar, where 4 or 5 kids from a cultural background work together to kind of move forward and then assimilate, to the rest of the school district as well as, Sponsor a Scholar. And it's a real nice microcosm for all the other kids who participate in the program. So we have a wide range of ethnicities and cultures and gender. Gender's about the only thing that we really struggle with. We're 70-30 girls to guys, and that has been something that has been really difficult. And I'm actually hoping that the Habitat collaboration will help us with that to even it out a little bit.
So why do you think that is?
The girls are more mature, and they just get it way before the guys do.
Well, we know that, Alyssa and I. We're well aware of that.
Absolutely. And my wife tells me that on a regular basis. So I've got it from all sides.
Yeah, right. Surprise.
But it's funny because Susan Dake, who's with Stewart's, who's been supportive for so many years, came to me when I was first in this program, and she said, Bill, why is it 70-30? And I said, I don't know. I'll try to do some things to balance it out. And when you sit down and you interview the students who are going to come in and who are looking to get into the program, it's just so clear how much further ahead the girls are than the guys are as freshmen in high school. The guys come in, and they look like they're going to do you a favor if they come in, into the program. The girls they've got their books, they're a little bit nervous, and they want to make sure that they present well and they answer all the questions correctly, and they're kind of it's just... if you were doing interviews for a job, you wouldn't hire any of the guys, and you'd bring in all the girls. It's just been a real, situation where we thought, well, maybe we'll bring the guys in as seniors, but then that's not really fair because then the girls have been coming to the program for 3 years and having to work for this $750, and the guys only have to work for a year. But I think with the Habitat piece, because gender isn't going to be factored into when the families come into the homes, maybe just by the fact that we should be 50-50 guys to girls, maybe that will help to right-size a little bit of the gender issue. But that's really the one that we struggle with more than anything else.
Well, you're working against nature, in a way, because I don't know exactly what it is, but at ninth, as freshmen, the girls are 18 months to 2 years ahead physically,
absolutely,
emotionally, intellectually. So there's that struggle. Maybe you need another, my social work hat is on right now, but I'm thinking maybe you need another person or another sort of counseling situation for the boys in addition to what the girls don't need because they have that maturity and address some of those because they're kids. They're still in middle school even though they're not.
Right. It's funny because they'll come up. The boys will come up to me as seniors, and they'll see me in the hallway or something. They'll say, "Hey, aren't you the Sponsor Scholar guy?" And I'll say, "Yeah." And they'll say, "I want to be in your program now." And it's like, well, it's too late. We should have had this conversation 2 years ago when you had the opportunity. They come to you as seniors with the light in your eye that you saw in the sophomores and freshman girls when you interviewed them back then. So not that I've given up, but I think the one place where I think we can make this a little bit more 50-50 is probably through this habitat piece because there's no gender, piece when the families come in. They just come in, and if they have a child who's in Albany public school systems, either a 9th or 10th grader, then we take the family and we take the student, and in they go. And obviously the student, hopefully, is not going to do anything to kind of mess up this very nice package that we've all worked to put together. But
that's true. Well, we'll have to interview you next year or after that's kind of been in place.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and see what happens, in terms of getting more. Because you're right, 70-30, at least you want to bring it up to 60-40, I would think, right? So that it's
anything
even.
Better than 70-30 would make me sleep better at night.
Exactly. So have we left anything out? I mean, we're about to...
Well, just the sponsors, a shout-out to them, to thank them for all their support. It's a very big commitment, $10,000. They typically pay $2,000 a year for 5 years. But many of the sponsors who I go back to now are people who've been giving since 1996 and who virtually on lunch and, your student's doing great. They're at such and such a college, and would you consider doing another one, sign another pledge, and off we go again. The Toohey family has been so supportive of us. Bob Higgins out of Trans World Entertainment has been, just huge supporters. Schenectady Foundation. These people have really stepped to the plate. M&T Bank and First Niagara have just done $35,000 donations to do homes with Habitat and sponsorship with us. Capital Bank just came on. I mean, the list is endless. I mean, when you talk about it, and you understand Sponsor Scholar, and then you talk about the collaboration and the potential for this growth with the Habitat program, the light goes on. It's a slam dunk.
Yep, it sounds like a slam dunk. It's great, fantastic. And some of those names obviously are very familiar to me because these are people who do give of their time and their money, and not only with Sponsor a Scholarship, but Sponsor a Scholar, but also in different arenas. Well, thanks so much for being on the show this morning, Bill.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you were terrific.
Thanks.
And, definitely. We'd love to have you back and, kind of keep us abreast of what's happening with the whole program.
Anytime.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, Catherine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a short break right now. You're listening to the Social Workers Radio Talk Show at University at Albany, WCDB FM 90.9 with Alyssa Lotmore and Catherine Zox and Gal Mosby. We'll be back in a minute.
They just don't understand.
I feel like I'm different.
I know I'm supposed to handle this on my own. I just don't know if I can.
I don't need advice. I just need someone to listen.
Who can I trust?
Hello, Teen Talk. Teen Talk, the only confidential listening line staffed by teens in the Capital District who are trained to listen to your concerns about relationships, substance abuse, stress, pregnancy, and anything else that's on your mind.
Teen Talk is a confidential listening line for teens staffed by teens. When your parents are talking at you, the teachers are talking over you, and your friends are talking about you, then you really need someone to talk to.
Teen Talk is open Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. when school is in session. The number is 383-4680. That's 383-4680.
When my family found out I was on drugs, they were just terrified.
I mean, it got to the point where my mom couldn't even sleep if I wasn't home.
He did not know how to take control of his life. The drugs had done it.
I wanted to have my life back and my family back. And that's when my mother found Narconon.
If you or someone you love has a drug or alcohol problem, call Narconon today at 1-800-468-6933 or visit us at www.stopaddiction.com.
We're back. I'm Catherine Zotz, your social worker with the microphone. You're listening to the Social Workers Radio Talk Show with Alyssa Lotmore and Gal Mosby on the board. WCDB FM 90.9, New Albany. This is a great radio station, by the way. I don't think the students, and I should ask Gal because you've been doing this for 2 years, and I've spoken to Alyssa about this. I don't know, do they appreciate that this is such a professional, radio station in terms of the equipment, in terms of the layout? I've been to radio stations at colleges, there's like a little closet, and this is not the case. This is, quite a place.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of the students know that it's actually here is the problem. When we do DJ certain events on campus, the students do get to see us on a professional level, the equipment that we have. A lot of them don't know that we have a production studio. If they ever need to record a track or something like that, they can come in here. But I think a lot of the students don't know. But when they do come here, when I have students for an interview or, student artists in here that, come in here and freestyle for my show or get an interview, I think they do appreciate it. They don't even know it's here and that we have such a a vast arrangement of things in the studio.
So what could we do? We're social workers. One of the things that social workers do, right? We you want to present the resources that are available in the community, University at Albany. Maybe we should do a program on that. Like you could put that together. You could put it together for us, seriously, because if students don't know about it, and like you said, they can do production, they can do. We're sitting here with 2 microphones, a professional board. It's
right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the students in communications and that want to get into broadcasting, this is the first place they should look.
Exactly.
And I don't think they're doing that. So
that was it. The communications students don't come over here. That, to me, that should be just kind of an automatic thing.
Right.
I know they have a television thing, but this is.
This is really top level stuff.
Yeah, this is the real thing.
You have your show recorded. You have professional microphones. You have the professional equipment. It's not some a little internet radio station.
Exactly.
It's a full-fledged radio station. So.
Exactly, and it's certainly more sophisticated than the 10 years ago when I worked in a small radio station, actually the smallest radio station in Albany, and it didn't have this kind of a facility at all. So we got to do a show about that.
And I think that's also thanks to in part by the student association funding the radio station. I believe our budget is upwards of $20,000. So. It's a lot of money that we can use for the benefit of the students and the radio station. So.
How do they get? If it's $20,000, it's like $20,000 a year that the student association has.
Right. So the student association budget is very, very large. It's about a $2.3 million budget. So they give that out to various student organizations for their budget. You have to kind of lobby for that money though. So fortunately, in the past and the present, we've been able to lobby for a good amount of money.
So how do you lobby for the money? What do you do? Do you stand outside the door and
going to? I would guess it would be equivalent to lobbyists going to Senate or the Assembly or Congress, things of that nature. So yeah, it's the same thing. We go to Senate meetings. When they bring up the budget, we go and lobby for more, give reasons why we should have an increase in a budget, and then they decide whether we should have a decrease or an increase.
Got it. Are you going to go into radio once you graduate? What year are you?
I actually graduated in May.
Oh, you graduated?
Yes,
you're graduating.
I graduated in May.
Oh, and you're still here?
Yes, I
You're
am.
like Andrew White. He was my first board op. He kept saying every year, I'm leaving, but he never did.
Well, I'm working for the State Assembly right now, so.
Oh, cool.
Right, so.
Great. Yeah. See, so you can, that's the other thing. It's sort of like, and Bill Corbett was saying about his program, you don't have to leave. Once you're a graduate, I graduated as an older student in 1983. That's when I got my MSW. And I guess that's the prerequisite for being able to do a show. You have to have graduated, it doesn't matter when. Or do you? Can community people be on the show?
We have actually a couple community members that do shows mainly on the weekends. A lot of them have very prestigious shows around the nation, even like the Social Workers Show is very good. So a lot of the shows on the weekend, we have Sir Rolford, who does a national reggae show
I love reggae.
Yeah,
do you like reggae,
every
Alyssa?
weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend, he has a lot of well-known reggae artists calling in for interviews and things, and people even listening in Jamaica to his show.
Very cool. Well, we'll have to, I mean, I get the schedule. I mean, obviously you can go online and look at the schedule, but I have to be, I think, more diligent about it. So, all right. So you don't have to necessarily be a graduate of the university. So what do you think of Bill Corbett?
I thought he was phenomenal. Just after speaking with my students, just the fact that there is a program such as this is a great resource and can sort of give hope, I guess. I mean, it sounds a little, but it really can. It can give hope to students who really didn't think it was an option. So I'm very happy that we had him on so we can inform other people about this.
You know what? I think one thing that is different. I mean, there are many things different about that program, but I think it's not just funding and money. I mean, and because that isn't enough. I mean, especially with these kids with the kinds of backgrounds they come from, there's nobody there to okay, now I have the money, but how do I what do I do?
Many programs just sort of throw money at things, and it doesn't really. That's not addressing the issues. It's not really helping or guiding the students, and that's why a lot of the programs aren't successful. And Sponsor a Scholar is, because it does have all those components. The mentoring is a huge piece to have somebody actually that you can a student can come and talk to and relate to, and sort of act as a guide to navigate through a system that they have no familiarity with. It's a phenomenal program.
Kind of relates to the article that you wrote that's soon to be published. Can we discuss it?
Yes.
Okay. About corporate culture and how important that is in terms of accomplishing one's goals. Well, we'll take in a social work situation, which this is, obviously. But I think your article kind of addressed that. It's, if you don't address corporate culture and how all these little pieces fit together, you're not going to accomplish whatever the mission is of that particular agency.
It is, because my article is the basis of it was one of my first jobs.
What's the title of your article?
The Importance of Agency Culture.
Okay.
Just because one of my first jobs was when I went in there, the culture I could just feel was not what it needed to be. Instead, there was a lot of pressure on staff. There was just sort of a feel that you could tell wasn't what it should be when you're going into a job. And it sort of created an environment that was not a therapeutic one for the staff to work with the clients. And when you're working with clients, it's not like you're just in an office by yourself. When you're working in the social work profession, you're working with clients. And if staff members are burnt out or not in alignment with the mission, it can create just a negativity across the board. And it's sort of like a cancer. It sort of spreads from one person to the next. And it can self-destruct the whole agency.
So what did you do? I mean, what happened?
We ended up having a new leader come in and take over, and there was a whole culture shift. It was not only getting staff know what the mission is, but it was sort of changing policies and changing the whole outlook of the agency so that the mission was present in all aspects.
Okay, so be specific. What did you do with, let's say, the social workers? How did you change that in their relationship to the clients, for instance? Like specific kinds of things that were there things that...
Well, some people were replaced, unfortunately, but
or fortunately. Yeah, I mean, you have to be able to do that.
It was, bad for them, but they weren't in alignment with the mission. So some people were replaced, new people were brought in, and when you have the right people on board and who are open to the feedback and sort of what the leadership wants done, it's so much better because they're buying into what the organization needs. We had different performance assessments, so people knew what they were being evaluated on, what they needed to accomplish, and that was such an important piece of it, for staff to know what was needed of them, what was required, and what they could do to improve. And then the sort of clarification from the administrators, our leader really explained what was needed to be done and why these changes were important, why it could help the clients that we were working with, it was sort of a collaborative effort onto how the mission can be reached in the most productive way. And staff were more engaged. They played a role in it. They had a part in it. And that was a great part of the buy-in process. And we've seen after the new leadership and all these changes, it was a place that I loved going to work every day.
All right, so that says it all, because that's what you need in a corporate culture. And corporate cultures can be different. I mean, different leaders provide different kinds of assets to the culture. I mean, even big companies, the CEO of IBM may be different than the CEO of Donna Karen, but there is maybe these overriding kinds of principles, like the support. You have to have support. You have to have support to your employees. So that they know that when they are following the mission of the corporate culture, that people are on board with them. I think that's really important. I just saw an article because I have a thing about Mayor Bloomberg. I like him. And I can say that, I guess our political views are okay. But one of the things, there was a Center for American Progress. This was on the net. I saw this morning, and it says, innovation for the public good, the importance of leadership in social innovation, and leadership is the first key to unlocking an innovation culture. And he says one of the things, if you want to be innovative within a system, within government, not-for-profit, for-profit, you have to have the guts to take risks. And that's, I think, a problem with a lot of these for-profit and not-for-profit agencies. Nobody wants to take a risk. You've got the status quo, even if it's not really working as you're describing. People are afraid to take risks and to make mistakes. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but that's okay, because if you don't take the risk, you're not really going to go anywhere. And he says you have to give staff permission to try new approaches to things. You have to allow them to do that.
Some of the best changes that we made were ideas from staff. It was allowing them to feel comfortable to approach leadership, to approach them and say, hey, I have an idea. Would you allow me to try it out and give me feedback on how it's going? And having staff feel comfortable enough to be innovative and express themselves in a way that could really work for the agency and, be replicated among other staff members.
Yeah. I want to ask Gal, because now you are out in the real world, which I wasn't aware of. I thought you were still here in the ivory tower. But so, how does this fit with you? Is this you don't have to be specific, obviously, but in terms of now that you're working, now that you're out there, does this make sense?
It does. I've found that I've had to do things that I never thought I was going to do fortunately for me, I did participate in internships before I graduated, so I ended up getting a job in the same field right after I graduated. So, some of the things that people deal with, being out in the world and having to kind of go out and search for jobs and things of that nature, I kind of don't have to do, but I'm also in the process of also trying to go to law school too. So I'm also, studying for the LSAT as well. So
that's a job in and of itself.
Yes.
It really is, right? Do you take one of those Kaplan courses, or what's the other one, the Princeton Review?
I plan on it. I'm studying on my own at the moment.
And they're a fortune.
Yes,
to take those, take those,
They
yeah,
are.
But you could take it online.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. What were we going to say?
I just, speaking about how you had internships, one of the resources on campus that I don't think a lot of people even know about that I took advantage of when I was here is the Community and Public Service program that they have right here on campus, where you can come in and take a 2-credit or 3-credit courses. And at an internship, you can sign up for sort of a credits, but you're actually out and about in fields that you're interested in. So I did mine in the school setting when I was an undergraduate, and it was a phenomenal experience because it got me familiar with what was out there, and it's actually got me into the field of social work because I originally wanted to go in education, and I went did that program, and I met the social worker, and it completely changed my whole outlook and had me apply, but it's right here on campus.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because you know what? It's not only, you're talking about you were introduced to social work, but if you have the opportunity to go to something you thought you wanted to do and you realize, I don't want to do this, you have that opportunity too before you take some job when you graduate and then have to, or, feel like you want to quit after 6 months or whatever. So,
but it's open to all the students. And
so what do you do? Just go over there? How does that work?
I think it's in the social science building. I know Sherry Stevens is the one person who runs it over there, but you just go and you register like a course, and you get a permission number, and you find an agency that you're interested in, the field that you're interested in, and you can sign up for it. So it's a really phenomenal program that I took advantage of. I actually took 3, 6, 8 credits through that program, and it was a great opportunity to help me get experience on my resume before I graduated, and to help me discover really what I wanted to do.
So did someone tell you about that? Because you're one of these people who's just I mean, you're the ideal student, responsible, looking to see, what opportunities, but not necessarily all the kids are that way. So is it advertised or we're advertising it, I guess?
I saw it in the advising office one day, but I really wish it would get out there a little bit more because it is a phenomenal program that is growing immensely because it's such a great opportunity just to build a resume and to just get experience and become familiar with what's out there.
Someone could work in the sponsor a scholar program.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's a connection. Takes an intern.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There's tons of agencies in all different fields. So great program.
I think each week we need to mention, perhaps that could be one of our showpieces, that we mention something on campus that perhaps people aren't aware of. We're talking about the radio station. It's underused, underutilized. You just talked about another program that I haven't heard of, and I've been here for, not that I would know all the programs, obviously, but, so you should find out what some of those programs, I should say, that are not so obvious.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, we only have a couple more minutes, and we have our next show, and we have to talk about the next show because we want to make the introduction to that. So we have our next show's DJ here. What is your name?
Hey, I'm Jaja Couture.
Jaja Couture?
Yes.
Is that your real name?
No.
Oh. You look like Jaja Couture. I love your little, what do you call those? I used to wear those. Yeah.
Earmuffs.
Earmuffs, but you can't wear them when you wear your headphones too, right?
No, I'm afraid not.
Jaja Couture. Very sexy. Very different. We have a lot of different varieties on the show, right? So we'll let you, we got a couple more minutes. Do we want to say goodbye? Does anybody have anything else to say that we haven't said?
I just want to say it was a pleasure being the board operator for the show, and what Bill Corbett is doing is very revolutionary.
Yes.
I like the idea with the collaborating with Habitat for Humanity. So it was a very good interview.
And when you become a lawyer, which we hope, perhaps you can help them in,
hopefully,
as an attorney. What kind of lawyer do you want to be, or do you know?
I want to do entertainment, but also public service. So
combination.
Yes.
Yeah, entertainment is fun. That's exciting. Yeah. Make a lot of money, and then you can use that money to
sponsor a scholar.
Right, to sponsor a scholar. Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic. Okay, Alyssa, what do you want to have to say?
I just, like I said, the guest today was phenomenal, and I hope we have more guests on that really bring light to programs that we weren't familiar about, especially in the community that can reach families that we work with and the populations that we work with. Because it really, I was not aware of this program, and it's great that we're.
And neither was I, which is not a good thing. I mean, some programs get more press than others, I think. Maybe it has to do with the marketing, or they get more press. I mean, they've had articles in the Times-Union because I was, on this program, but not a lot. I haven't seen it on television. I'm sure they have been on TV, and they've got some YouTube, like 3-minute spots and stuff. But yeah, it's just the big ones like cancer and heart disease, and some of the big Make-A-Wish, and some of the big ones, big foundations. They're out there, but these smaller ones don't always.
That are usually really successful. The small ones,
right? Exactly, and they don't get the attention, but we're giving them the attention, right? So I guess it's time for us to say goodbye. This was a great show, Jaja Couture, couture, like fashion, right? Exactly. So you have to come dressed fashionably, even though nobody can see you. I'm Catherine Zox. I'm your social worker with a microphone here at the University at Albany, the School of Social Welfare, and you've been listening to all of us, Alyssa Lottmore, Gal Mosby, soon to be an attorney. We're rooting for you.
Thank you.
And we had a great show. Hope you enjoyed it. WCDB FM 90.9. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Close your eyes and imagine you're on an unspoiled beach somewhere. Sunlight streaming through the palm leaves. A paradise like this isn't easy to come by, but it does still exist. Because the Nature Conservancy works locally with people like you to save precious places around the world, forever. That way, closing your eyes will never be the only way to get there. I'm Paul Newman. Help save the last great places.
Visit the Nature Conservancy at nature.org. Nature.org.
Hey there, Albany. This is Jaja Couture. You're about to listen to 2 hours of dead air. I'm going